just to die, and you say you belong to me. It's my mind that you have a world to do. So everything, so happy together. I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my life. When you're with me, baby, the skies will be blue for all my life. You and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together. I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my life. When you're with me, baby, the skies will be blue for all my life. Me and you, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together.
Finally. Thanks for waiting, everybody.
Hello. Hello.
Is that for me? Thank you.
You can have it.
Hello. Ooh, sorry, done loud. Well, welcome to day 2 of Staple, and welcome, obviously, to the Kevin Eastman Q&A. Round of applause, please. I'm Richard Whittaker with the Austin Chronicle. It is my great pleasure to introduce Kevin. Obviously, everybody here knows him as one of the co-creators of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, this is a guy who, through the Turtles, helped redefine how indie comic creators and self-owned comics are put out there. Through Tundra Press, gave a lot of great talents, thank you again, a lot of great talents the opportunity to do something that they weren't allowed to do through traditional outlets. Now as the publisher of Heavy Metal has kept, a real outlet for some great artistic comic creators out there as well. One of the founding writers of the Creators Bill of Rights, which helped establish how comic creators should be treated by the industry, for which I think a lot of people should be very grateful. And now, in one of the great circular moments of comicdom, is back on the Turtles. Back in 2009, Stan Sakai, who writes and draws Usagi Yojimbo, getting recognition. Who was here for Stan in 2009? There we go. He said that he was kind of struggling away in the black and white indie comics field, and nobody was really paying any attention. He put his first title out, nobody cared, and then 1984, Turtles comes out, and he said the black and white explosion started. And I was just wondering, I mean, what do you recall of back in '84 when this was first going on and you first, broke the waters?
Well, a couple things really quick is you forgot that I was the 5th Beatle. But also I want to thank everybody here in Austin. I want to say that I've never been here and you guys have been absolutely awesome. I thank Chris and everybody that brought me down here to Staple, and the fans here have been outstanding. You guys have made me feel more than at home, and it's been just a wonderful experience. And I want to thank you all for having me down. Thank you. It's funny, back when I grew up a kid that loved comics, reading comics from the first Jack Kirby comic book I saw. That's what I wanted to do for a living, much to my parents' chagrin. They were always like, well, get a real job and then you can do this on the side. But I always wanted to be a storyteller and write and draw my own stories. And I wasn't like, I didn't want to be an inker, I didn't want to be just a writer, or I wanted to do it all. I wanted to be able to do all parts of it. And guys like Jack Kirby led me to hunt down different kinds of artists, and I discovered Heavy Metal Magazine. And it's funny, I always say that Heavy Metal Magazine helped me create the Turtles, and I created the Turtles so I could buy Heavy Metal Magazine. and here's how it goes. It's sort of, in 1977 I found Heavy Metal Magazine, and just about the time that I was kind of getting bored with regular comics, you know, guys in skin-tight suits, and that whole thing was just getting a little juvenile, as much as I love Daredevil and those kind of things. But along comes Heavy Metal, and I realized you could write and draw any kind of story you can imagine as a comic book story. You know, all these European artists that have been going on with this tradition for years and years and years. And so I also discovered in the pages of Heavy Metal artists like Richard Corbin and Vaughn Bodie, and guys that were self-publishers. And so my pursuit of more artwork by those guys, I found underground comics. I discovered Robert Crumb and again, Richard Corbin, Vaughn Bodie, Spain Rodriguez, Gilbert Shelton, the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers, and this whole world of self-publishing. So I was already introduced to comics as Kirby on one side and sort of mainstream comics, and was a fan of comics. Heavy Metal with a European sort of flair, and you can tell any kind of story you want, and that led me to underground comics, which was the same thing as these guys publishing underground comics. Were doing it because they weren't represented anywhere else, and they could write and draw the kind of stories that they wanted to tell, whether it's sex and drugs or whatever content they wanted to put in there. But they were their own stories that they created and owned their characters. Along that pipeline, I discovered a new resurgence in underground publishing when I found guys like Dave Sim. Dave Sim was one of the new underground comics publishers, running his own little shop out of Canada, and he had come up with this character called Cerebus. Cerebus was a little aardvark that ran around dressed like Conan the Barbarian, and he was drawn like Barry Smith's, Marvel Conan series. And I thought it was the funniest thing. I thought, oh my God, it's kind of a parody, it's kind of a joke, it's funny, but you could tell this guy, Dave Sim, has got a huge amount of talent, and as I continued to follow Cerebus, he quickly sort of jumped off the parody sort of thing that he was doing with Cerebus in the early years and was developing this character. There was guys like Wendy and Richard Pini doing black and white comics and things like that. So inspired by this, I had met Peter along the way. We were both trying to sell some of our work to a magazine in Northampton, Massachusetts. And along the way, we decided, look, if we don't want to sell our work, try to sell our work to Marvel or DC, get one of these jobs. We're standing on the shoulders of giants, whether it be self-publishers or guys that broke ground at Marvel and DC, or these European artists that inspired us. Let's come up with something that sort of like steal from Dave Sim with an animal character. Let's take some of our favorite Marvel Comics isms, like Daredevil's origin story, things like that. Some of those popular themes, or so we had animals, we had ninjas, we had mutants, like Sienkiewicz was doing the New Mutants. We rolled all these up into one little bow, called it the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
No matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together.
Listen to your woman, but not closely.